Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tuddervinter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. One of my goals with this podcast is to shed light on the Brussels ecosystem and open it up, take out the mystery and share how the different organizations work and how you can get involved. Some time ago I recorded a special on the Circular Bio-based Europe Infoday with Program Officer and Call Coordinator Brigitta representing the Circular Bio-based Europe joint undertaking. Of course, the natural follow-up to that episode was an episode zooming in on Circular Bio-based Europe itself. Circular Bio-based Europe is part of the European Partnership Framework. It is in the so-called Institutionalized Partnerships category, which means they have their own corner of the Horizon Europe work program, where they decide and govern their own calls. I managed to get head of program Puzzolo into the studio together with program officer and call coordinator Brigitta to take a dive into the organization and how they work. It became a long talk, so it is divided into 2 episodes. Last week, we covered Circular Bio-based Europe's place in the Horizon Europe framework and how they work strategically with the input for the work programs. In this second half, my guests share with us the different tools that Circular Bio-based Europe has developed to support the community, especially the extraordinary networking platform. Please enjoy. Grant. All this related to shaping, of course, and so on. That's with BIC. But here you still have, you're the one that you are administrating the networking tool, right?
Well, there are different tools. Yeah.
Let's say we have a platform, exactly. But let's say we can focus on the platform that.
Yeah, but then let's go into the platform, so because that's wonderful. So let's just let me just share with the listeners one of the things in my career. I've been doing a lot of facilitating as a project, public project facilitator, and as a private grants consultant. So as a public one, I was for different regions or sectors I was covering as a civil servant. My role was to connect people, to find proposals, to find consortia, to connect people into possible collaboration that could move into something. And as a private consultant, obviously, I was shaping consortia for clients, and I would need dearly places where I could go and find a connection to the different socioeconomic areas that I was dealing with and building, helping stakeholders with. Now, within the area of bio-based economy, so agriculture, stuff like this, it was an absolutely wonder to have the platform that you built up, because it's now been running for quite some years now. It was absolutely fantastic because the source you have as such a person, as the function that I had, you have the B2 match, right? So you have brokerage events, you have whatever. I was going to conferences. I was lucky enough to be a sector person at the time where I could go to specific, exhibitions, stuff like this, where you have a sector gathered, but it's still it's limited to a short period. A brokerage event is sort of, that's 1 or 2 days, right? Or you would have a conference over 3 or 4 days. But your platform was permanent platform of connecting, and with the focus on exactly this, partnering up for collaborative research innovation projects. Now, we can start there. Now build it up. How beautiful that is. So we can start with that too. So that's what we move into. Now we talk a little bit about what you do in this area to sort of facilitate for the sector to approaching these calls. So
yeah. Maybe I'll quickly, let's say, talk a little bit more about this networking tool. So it's a database. It's a free database. Every organization can create a free profile there. It's a database that is permanently open, that is updated annually when the new topics become available. So then, as an organization, you can say, this is who I am. This is my expertise. And this year I'm interested in these and these and these topics. This is what I can offer. This is what I want to do. This is what I don't want to do. And the more organizations that do that, the better, because you can find other organizations, but you can also be found by other organizations that might specifically look for that expertise in that specific topic. So that is, let's say, one of the options. This is the tool that we have created to make it as relevant for, let's say, the CBEJU environment as possible. But besides that, you also have other possibilities. I think one of the best decisions that at the time BBI made when they started was to make sure that everything that they did was fully embedded within the Horizon IT infrastructure. So if you're looking for our topics, you can just go to the funding and tender opportunities portal. This is the one-stop shop where all the information about EU funding can be found, not only about CBEJU, but also about Horizon, all the different other clusters, etc. And you can just search via keywords about what you're interested in. And it could be that you find CBEJU topics, could be that you find other topics. You need to find the thing that you're most really interested in and what suits best with your needs. And also there in that portal, you have the opportunity, once that our topics are published, you can also leave a bit less information, but still you can also leave contact information there. This topic, I am interested. This is what I can offer. This is my contact details, etc. So there are different options on how to get in touch with multiple potential other consortium members. And if that leads to a proposal, great. If it leads to a successful proposal, even better. But if it also helps to structure this very broad fraction sector, which is the Circular Bio-based Europe sector in Europe, even better as well. The project that comes out of it, a funded project, is the cherry on top. But if all these activities make sure that everyone is better connected, that's actually also one of the main advantages.
Yeah. I can say, because I can say as a user, I just praise it. I can only praise it again. It is but it is because what, networking on Horizon, it's a cacophony. It's very, very difficult to pin down tools or ways of doing this when you work not with just one topic or one area, but across the board. The Commission has their own site, but it's what is the problem with these kind of databases that wants to do everything is that you have a lot of dead context. So dead database is not a very useful database. It's fine that the Commission is doing it, but it's not very functional. Any database needs to have a living person making sure that it's like a gardener. You need to take out the weeds if it needs to be a nice garden. And this, it's not useful for the users if you have a ghost town in 2/3 of the place where you need to, because you cannot connect with people and that's also the image it gets. Then people don't use it because it seems dead. Hence, so it's very, very difficult to. You cannot do it across the whole horizon. So that's why, from practical experience and user of these things, is when you do invest as you have done as a European partnership in this, to make a dedicated database for your stakeholders, for your beneficiaries, that's the preferred way to do these things, because it's extremely valuable, because you probably have resources set aside to keep it sort of straightened, and by that it's alive, because it's live posts you have in there.
Maybe from my side, I think we always need two dimensions. One is indeed the platform that is there, that allows at any moment to connect. But after COVID, I also believe that having created again the condition to meet also in person, and this happened last year with the large info day that we organized, was essential, because also the people need to meet, and especially after the 2.5 of COVID was something extremely welcomed. And then it's easier to follow up than even with other mechanisms. So from now on, we have decided that we will go back to the old-fashioned on-site big info day in Charlemagne. So we have already one plan for the call 24 next year in April. We'll do it as such that the stakeholder can be informed much in advance. And as well, we are going to have a very important event for us, is the Stakeholder Forum on the 6th and 7th of December this year, where everyone, every stakeholder that is active in our community is interested at all level, also high political level, will come and discuss together what are the challenges, what we should have to do, what is the prospect for the future, where we are in our strategic research and innovation agenda, what are we missing, or how do we have to adapt to changes condition that we are facing due to external reasons, as we know well. So these moments, events of gathering together physically in an event, I still believe are as important as creating networking opportunities in a virtual context. And so we will always have both in our
Indeed,
planning.
and this humble medium has actually had a dedicated episode to your last info day. That's for listeners. Regulars will know, but for new listeners on board here, that's episode number 50. If you have an interest in hearing me, Dieter, and Maria, who was a user of the info day, discussing exactly what the Infoday is, how you do that, and so on and so forth. And you were all very happy there because it was the first time again after all this pandemic circus. Now, maybe if we fold that a little bit out more, right? Because it shouldn't just be a reference to a former episode here. So the Infodays, naturally, I've also been participating in yours. Several of them, and I like them a lot, especially the lunch.
Look, I mean, it's a joke that we make as well. We've been combating food waste since 2015, you know, in both in our projects and individually. So
now, very good. The info days, dear people out there, if you haven't participated in one, do it, for Christ's sake. Go, because they are not only, it's not only you get information, you have info sessions on the content, but you have wonderful networking, not only in the breaks, but you also have the dedicated brokerage events, which is speed dating, so to say, content speed dating, where you get the chance to meet people one-on-one over hours, where you it's extremely intense, but how lovely and strong contacts I have built myself over the years, also with yours, where you sit 20 minutes or 15 minutes, clock rings, then you go to the next table, and so on and so forth until you meet 15 to 20 people. What you have there is a very short but intense meetings, where you can go back afterwards and collect the ones that really has a perspective for you and move on with them. Now these elements, it's so important. Thank you for making them and creating them. But I want you to be able to share with the listeners also that you are doing them now decentralized, right? It's not only in Brussels.
Yeah. So if you're unable to come to the one in Brussels, one you can always follow online. So that is one option, but also double check with let's say your local stakeholders, because our state's representatives group is not only an advisory body, which provides very useful input, but it's also our main contact with the different member states and associated countries and etc. So we always ask them, are you organizing something locally, a local info day in your country, where we can then also participate as speakers, etc. And I think one of the strangest things that I've ever had in an info day where I was presenting, and at the end, okay, we were talking a bit and they were asking a couple of questions. And I asked everyone there, everyone in this meeting room, do you actually know each other? All from the same country, in the same field, etc. And they were looking at each other, actually, no. So even there, that was one of the best networking events that I ever saw, which was within one country. And then, that also strengthened them to make sure, okay, can we maybe work together and form the basis of a consortium and then start looking for other organizations outside of Europe, or outside of our country, I mean. So that was surprisingly positive as well.
I like it. How many have you planned? Do you know if there are any upcoming?
Not now anymore, because we typically do these info days in the first half of the year when the call is, let's say, for fresh now, 12 days before the end, but before call closure, that's a bit more difficult. But we ask it at the start of each year to all our states representatives group members to say, are you interested? Can we help out? Can we co-present, etc. And then it also depends a bit on what they have in store and what they would like to plan.
But maybe to give you an example, last year, so this year, for the call of this year, we participated to around 15 info day, national organized. So these are organized by the national contact points with our member states representative. The majority were online, because in this way you can also have a high reach of potential applicants at country level. But we also decided to go in some case on site instead, because we have certain countries that have up to now were not very active. They are also countries that come from a widening perspective, so that for us are strategic and we would like to engage with them. And so in that case, with the national contact points and with our representative, we have agreed that an on-site info day, for example, I was in the one in Poland, was needed. And this was really important, I have to say, because it's another contact. It's also another message that you pass, especially when a country or certain beneficiary or potential beneficiary don't feel to participate because they don't understand the program, they have reservation. So there are countries that are very active, that have been always very supportive, where there is an history, let's say, while there are others where this history is not there. So even for the NCP, it's difficult to involve and convince. So there you need another strategy. And again, being on site could also lead to another type of understanding. So again, we are we have few, so we have certain, let's say, capacity that we have to deploy, but we try to ad hoc find a good instrument. And so Info Day, National Info Day, as much are requested, on-site or online, depending on the specificity of the country and the needs that we have identified with our member state representatives.
And these are only the let's say, the networking events that we organize as CBEJU. But of course, next to that, we also have our private partner, BIC. So BIC is a membership-based organization, and they also organize specific events for their members, which of course involves quite a bit of networking there as well. But there, of course, that is for the BIC members themselves. But again, it's not only what we do as CBEJU that helps the networking, there are also other initiatives that definitely add value as well.
Are there any other sort of tools or things that you do? Do you do webinars, for instance, stuff like this? Or trainings? Or do you do any sort of in these categories?
It's always tricky in a sense that, because we don't want to be the judge and jury at the same time.
Yeah.
Our main role, we're a very operational body, so we need to make sure that the evaluation is done in a fair and transparent way, and we don't want to give the impression, even if it's just an impression, that we are helping certain organizations more than others.
Yeah.
So that's a bit tricky. And one of the sometimes we get the request, can we have a little meeting with you just to discuss if my idea would be great? Yeah. We have to say sorry, no, but there are a lot of reasons why that's a bit tricky. And but the main one that I typically say is, look, you have anywhere between 30 to 70 pages to develop an idea. It could be that if I look at an idea on what is it, half a page, it might look great, but then when you develop it, it might not click or tick all the boxes, everything that you need to follow and vice versa as well. So plus, it's not me that's going to evaluate it. We hire professionals in the field to do this, external experts, university professors, people in industry, etc., just to check this. So who am I to say, oh yeah, it looks like a great idea, So that's the tricky part, So the info days, for sure, the networking platform, anything there, but we are not providing individual consultancy. That's something that we cannot do.
No. So what else do we have besides from what we already discussed? Do you have any other things that you, in relation to the information or?
Well, our website, let's say, is continuously updated. We have a couple of what is called frequently asked questions lists, because of course, after a topic or after an annual work plan has been published, then the topics are there for everyone to read. But sometimes, they're very well written, but sometimes there might be questions. And then that's actually a fair question. So what we then do is
who do you refer to when? Because it's often like this when you are approaching a specific call that there's like a call not related to CBE, right? So you need to find the project officer and the commission to ask into how should we interpret this formulating like this?
It's a true collaboration. Every question we keep them centralized via CBE-JU, and then we ask if it's a topic and if it's okay. We receive a lot of questions. Some of these questions we can answer ourselves because it's about procedures, it's about the Horizon rules, about participation, etc., etc. So these are questions that we answer. But if there are really topic interpretation questions, we ask both Commission and BIC.
Okay.
And they need to agree. And only once they have agreed, we then answer the applicant, and we add that question in a specific section of our frequently asked questions list for applicants. And from time to time, we publish an updated version. So the information doesn't just stay with the person who asked it, it is shared with the whole world.
How is it when it comes to national contact points? And so do the national contact point covering this area, do you link to them, for instance, from your website?
And we train them from time to time as well. So there are also certain what is called coordination and support actions that group all the cluster 6 national contact points. So we're in contact with them. We send them information whenever we have an updated frequently asked questions list, for example. We keep them informed. We do that as well via our counterparts in Commission. So whenever new information becomes available, we try to spread it through different communication channels, not only our own, but also via the national contact points.
Important information for the listeners out there approaching your calls, right? So just without going into the national contact points, my dear listeners, those are the nationally appointed government officials. That is the resource you can go to free of charge and ask about specific parts of the work program. And there's one assigned. Or there's for whatever part of the work program you are approaching of Horizon Europe, there is a resource you can go to. They're not always dedicated to one subject, but there is always a resource that you can go to and ask free of charge, and they can help you further on this. Just for explanation.
Maybe on this point, if you allowed me, this year we had a new initiative, so we got in contact with the European Enterprise Network. That is indeed another mechanism focused at regional level to support the SME for applying for funding in Horizon, then also beyond European funding. So we had a dedicated, for example, info day for them, because this was something new. We never did it before. And it was a way, again, to reach a community that for us is very important, but it is often more local. And so also for the NCP and national level could be difficult to get in contact. So there are other mechanisms as well funded by the framework program that could be used. And we had a very positive reply from them. They organized a dedicated info day, and we will repeat this from now
Enterprise
on.
Europe Network is a very dedicated network. It's again, short explanation. It's for SMEs, and it's a collaborative platform where you have dedicated people sitting for all over Europe that is supporting both the funded, but actually also commercial collaboration. It's a big part of it for SMEs. Do you also, for instance, the LIFE program, which should have some overlaps sector-wise with your area? Do you have any interaction with them at any level?
Not yet in a formal way. So we have identified the LIFE program also as one of the programs with whom we would like to create some synergies. I see the synergy with the LIFE program mainly at implementing level. Because in fact we can have projects that are funded by both programs, as it happened in other parts of Horizon Europe, that tackle, let's say, similar problems that can be complementary. So what we do in this context, not with the LIFE per se, but in general as a principle, is to create a cluster workshop or cluster groups of projects that are also funded by other parts of the union budget. And this has been done, for example, this year we had a very big initiative for textile. So many projects funded by different parts that were active in new textile initiative who came together. There was a big workshop to share and to create a common, let's say, position, also an understanding of what is happening in the field. So with LIFE, this is the way we work. It's mainly at implementing level, and it's clearly one of the programs where we have common interest, let's say, at the level of the subject.
Plus, also in the creation of the annual work plan, this is also one of the central roles that the European Commission plays. That is to double check that any ideas that are being discussed for the annual work plan of the next year are not already funded somewhere else in this big Horizon environment, in the big EU funding environment. So, and then of course they also double check with LIFE. Okay, guys, is this something that you are already funding or not? So again, just making sure that European taxpayers' money is being well spent.
Indeed. Just for the listeners, most people that listen to this would also know what LIFE is. LIFE is a different funding program. It has some different principles than Horizon Europe, but just very short, it is, when it comes to it offers support within bioeconomy and environment technologies, and also energy technologies to a certain extent, but in the sort of value chain of funding, it's at the test and demonstration and scaling of a technology. So when you come out from the innovation project of Horizon, often within these areas, you can go to LIFE and then get a project where you have a scaled model, for instance, or a one-to-one model of the technology that you have developed in an innovation project in Horizon. That's sort of narrowing it in what it is. You also have a lot of funding for public authority and how they work, and so on. Yeah, but that was just short. I will have for all of you out there, dear listeners, I will have an introduction to the LIFE program soon. That's already arranged. So actually, I think we are shortly coming to an end here.
I was checking again the list of points you have, let's say, given us. I have the feeling we covered maybe on the membership. If you have any question more on the bio-based industry control,
mentioned
I don't know.
So and that's because the reason, and to be honest, so when you do podcast initiative like this, and you have a lot of people through the studio, I had a thematic episode with Processes for Planet. The structure is a little bit different, where they have everything in one organization. That sort of colored the adaptation I had here, and I didn't fully I didn't remember that you had this division, right? So I just said, okay, this is what we're going to cover. So but I think we covered it. We understood that you have two different sections, so covering different areas. I think it's fine. So if you want to be involved, maybe then you need to approach the BIC.
Yeah, that's one of the questions that we have to answer often. Hey, can we become a member of CBEJU? Well, actually, no. You can only become a member of BIC, but they have what is it on their website? It's one of the main headings on their website is actually what the types of memberships are, what the benefits of membership are, etc. So, up to you indeed to all the listeners to have a look and to see if this could be something interesting for you as well.
Yeah, but come, Virginia.
But we need to clarify that you can apply to the call. The call are completely open, so you don't need to be a member of the Bio-based Industry Consortium to become part of the funding project. But then if you want to be part of the strategic development, you want to be really leading and being part of the discussion that are taking place, then you need to be partner. And partner, it means you are partner of the program, not of the project. And that to do that, you have to become member of the Bio-based Industry Consortium. So there are two levels of engagement. One is at project level, and this is open for everyone. And another one is a programming level, and that is done via the two members. That one is the Commission, and the other one is the Bio-based Industry Consortium.
What I would say is that I would love to do an episode on the BIC.
I think you should. I mean, you have contact. If not, we can put you in contact with Dirk, with Marco, with Samuele. I mean, the three people, they can cover different angles also of their role, strategic role, programming role. So we can, I will really suggest this could be a nice addition.
Sure. It's the grant, there's all the time in the world to talk and dig into things. So it would be absolutely natural for me to also have an episode covering BIC. Also because that's where you can get involved. Yeah, so it's interesting for listeners that have now been raised awareness now about the organization and how they can get in there. So what we need to cover here, I always do that all episodes, the toughest challenge. Dieter, you've been there before.
How do we close?
Well, last time I said the toughest challenge linked to an Infoday. I mean, if now the question is a toughest challenge linked to, what is it, the program in itself, specifically a joint undertaking, also because, I've worked for the Commission before and now work for a joint undertaking.
Yeah.
It's an indirect thing that I'm going to say, it's the creativity of our projects. What do I mean by that is when we started out in BBI times, for example, two types of feedstock that were completely not on our radar was aquatic biomass and what is called biogenic CO2. So what is it? CO2 gas that is created from biogenic processes, not the one at the top of an iron mill or something like that. And throughout the years, that became more and more important, became more and more interesting. And then the question is, okay, how do we fit that in? Because yes, research is evolving, markets are evolving, there seems to be a real interest in this as well, but it wasn't yet in our strategic innovation and research agenda. So then those discussions needed to start. So it's this keeping in line with keeping track of what really is happening in research and in the markets.
Yeah.
And being sure that, the topics that are become available each year are still in line with the real needs of, what research and markets in European bio-based and circular industries want. That, I think, is the biggest challenge. And, this is also why we're never bored, for sure.
Virginia, what would you say?
For me, I can add another challenge instead. Is how do we keep what we have funded and have matured in Europe? Because we invest a lot in creating the condition to test and develop and scale. But then if we want to go to a real deployment, we need to provide other mechanism of funding. And we need also to ensure that the regulatory conditions are favorable for this company to remain in Europe. And today, this is one of the hot topics that we have. Because we see other things happening in other parts of the globe. Think about what has happened recently with the Biomanufacturing Act in US. So companies are also now coming, asking what is the next step? How Europe want also to build on this capacity, because we are good in Europe with innovation, really good. We have a very bright mind, we are very dynamic, but then we have to also allow them to stay with policy condition that indeed favorize also the growth of the company for our benefit in all sense. So the challenge also that we have in CBE, because we create the value chain, we want this innovation to become also to remain in Europe, not only to be developed. And this is one of the discussion we will have in our stakeholder forum. And that's why also the policy and the CEO from company will come there to try to understand what is happening today. How do we have to adapt our policy framework to ensure that this new green technology will remain in Europe and will also flourish and become at a scale that can be really at a production scale.
Yeah, it's a matter of market shares. It's a matter of creating a world-leading sector that we will all in the whole world have to think circularity and so on. So it's being at the forefront and creating technologies that the rest of the world is going to buy.
I agree, but we have different models than China. We have different models than US. So how do we create a play field in Europe is a key point of discussion, which I'm sure will be an interesting debate in December when we'll be in Brussels
Indeed.
together.
Thanks. This was nice. This was a nice recording. Dieter, it's good episodes with you on board, and and Virginia, first timer there. Excellent, thanks.
But now we have to be sure we can stop correctly and save,
Oh, we
because
haven't
now
finished.
the worst could happen is that then we don't save it properly.
We're still recording. So I'm just going to land the plane of the episode before we say goodbye to the listeners. So dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as the free here in the virtual podcast studio has. It's been a very, very nice episode. Now, for any of you guys, both new listeners, newcomers, and regulars, if you haven't done so yet, check out my website and do go in and subscribe to my email list if you do sympathize with what I'm doing. It is a spare time initiative, and anyone who registers on that list, that's a currency in the podcast world. So please, by all means, do that. There you will also keep developing the site, as mentioned earlier in this episode, and keep trying to make it more user-friendly. I've recently made actually a funding scheme sites there for you, so everybody with Horizon Europe interest can go in and find there. You can find on ERC, you can find up the European Defence Fund, and so on and so forth. And connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where the fun happens on the day-to-day basis. That's where that's where likes come. That's where shares they flow. This is where I share with you, for instance, my new jobs and leads portal that I created for people who need freelancers or people who wants to have availability to do work. You can go in and check there for everybody out there that are developing proposals. That I saw that I keep receiving requests. Niels, can you help me finding someone who can develop a proposal for me? Can you help me? I need for 2 weeks someone who can help me doing this and so on. So you can find it in there. And if you want to get on the list, let me know. What else? I always forget something. Yeah, I always do this at the end of a recording. It's a long format, so you said you have fried your brain, focusing intensely on having a nice discussion, and then I have to remember all the nice things. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the end. And my dear guests, Virginia, Dieter, so nice having you on board. Let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.